Linda, my wife of a decade, was there to greet me at the door when I arrived home on Wednesday night. She beckoned me to take a seat at the table, suggesting we had some serious talking to do. As I sat down, I prepared myself for what seemed like the beginning of potentially numerous difficult conversations. She started by expressing her love for me, assuring me that she would never do anything to harm our marriage. However, her words left me feeling uneasy. Okay, I replied, but before I could continue, she interrupted, taking a deep breath, signaling that the conversation was about to take a troubling turn. She continued, I love you, and I want us to grow old together, but I've made a decision. I want to have an affair. I was completely blindsided by this revelation, and I didn't like it one bit. Trying to wrap my head around it, I sought clarification. So let me get this straight. You love me, you don't want to harm our relationship, but you want to have closeness with someone else? I asked somewhat crudely. To which she responded, I wouldn't put it quite like that. I've met someone I'm interested in having a physical relationship with. It would be occasional, and I promise to always be honest with you about it. I believe I love you enough for this not to affect how I feel about you. If you truly love me as you say, you should let me do this because I feel the need to. She wore a confident smile as she explained. Confused and taken aback, I replied, I don't understand why you think you need to do this, and I can't fathom how it wouldn't impact us. Have you and this person already made plans? Linda nodded, we're tentatively planning to go away for a weekend next week. She then asked me a question, requesting honesty. She wanted to know how I'd react if she proposed the same thing to me. I knew that a truthful answer might make her explode because the idea itself was quite surprising. I would be okay with it as long as you assured me it wouldn't affect our relationship, I said. She said, you know damn well you would have flipped out if I ever brought up such a thing. I scoffed at her comment, and she seemed surprised, responding, I honestly didn't expect you to react this way. I thought your love for me would allow me to do something this important. I retorted, well, whatever you've been smoking must be illegal. Did you really think I'd just give you the green light to be with this guy? So I'm supposed to sit at home twiddling my thumbs while you have a weekend rendezvous? Maybe I didn't think things through too well, she admitted. You're right. I didn't consider a lot of things, including my own feelings. If I say no to this, will you still go ahead with it? I honestly didn't know. I never thought you would refuse me. It was a scenario neither of us had contemplated thoroughly. Our minds were in disarray, grappling with the weight of her proposition. Here's what we'll do, I proposed, seeking a brief reprieve to mull over her startling revelation. Give me a few days to think this over. Let's sit down Sunday afternoon and discuss this after I've had some time to reflect. Despite the turmoil roiling within, I attempted to maintain composure. The events of that night caught me off guard, leaving me feeling disconcerted and restless. Seeking solace, I retreated to our bedroom, the turmoil within mirrored by the chaos of my actions as I began relocating my belongings to the guest room. Linda's inquiry into my sudden movements prompted an explanation, albeit one tinged with a hint of resentment. I prefer not to share a bed with you, I confessed, unable to mask the bitterness in my tone. It seems you're more focused on someone else than me. With a forceful motion, I shut the door behind me, barricading myself in a cocoon of solitude. The night dragged on, devoid of the solace sleep typically offered. However, amidst the darkness, a plan began to take shape, a response born from the realization that her proposed actions threatened to shatter the very foundation of our relationship. The following day dawned, and with it came a sense of determination. I carried out the motions of my daily routine, albeit with a heavy heart, the weight of our impending conversation looming over me like a dark cloud. Silence prevailed as I departed for work, a stark contrast to our usual exchanges. A call to my workplace, requesting a brief hiatus for personal reasons, provided the necessary reprieve to set my plan in motion. Armed with resolve, I embarked on a mission to gather evidence to uncover the truth lurking beneath the surface of her seemingly innocent proposition. 3 voice-activated recorders, strategically placed to capture every whisper, every confession. Phone tap recorders, meticulously connected to our landlines, poised to intercept any incriminating conversations. A visit to her cell phone provider yielded a trove of data, phone charges providing a breadcrumb trail to her communications. The afternoon waned, and with Linda still ensconced in the confines of her workplace, I seized the opportunity to delve into her digital footprint. Email accounts, once sacrosanct, now laid bare before me, their contents offering glimpses into her hidden desires. Discovery came swiftly, revealing a correspondence with a coworker named Frank Jones, the unwitting catalyst in our unfolding drama. The lawyer, a bastion of legal expertise, offered assurances of a swift resolution provided the evidence I presented met the stringent criteria of the court. With confidence, I handed over the fruits of my labor, a comprehensive dossier detailing Linda's transgressions. As the day drew to a close, I found myself standing at the precipice of an uncertain future poised to confront the consequences of her actions head-on. Though the path ahead was fraught with uncertainty, I remained steadfast in my determination to unearth the truth, to salvage what remained of our fractured union. As soon as Linda returned home that evening, I made it abundantly clear where I stood, giving her the cold shoulder and refusing to utter a single word as she busied herself with dinner preparations. Without a second thought, I left the house, seeking solace in the dimly lit confines of a nearby bar, where a meal and a few beers provided temporary respite from the turmoil brewing within. Upon my return, she attempted to engage me in conversation, but my silence spoke volumes. With deliberate steps, I bypassed her, retreating to the guest room and slamming the door shut behind me. The weight of our fractured marriage hung heavily in the air, the only glimmer of hope resting on her willingness to abandon her plans with Frank, a prospect I viewed with a skepticism bordering on pessimism. Throughout the weekend, I maintained my steadfast refusal to engage with her, a silent protest against the betrayal that threatened to tear us apart. Yet, as Sunday afternoon dawned, I recognized the need for a dialogue, a final attempt to salvage what remained of our fractured union. Seated across from each other in the kitchen, I broached the subject with a measured tone, expressing my profound unease at her request. I outlined the exhaustive contemplation that had led me to this moment, highlighting the irreparable harm her actions had already inflicted upon our marriage. Despite her evident distress, I implored her to consider my perspective, to recognize the gravity of her decision. In response to her accusation of selfishness, I stood firm, underscoring the sanctity of the vows we had exchanged a decade prior. The prospect of an extramarital affair, I reminded her, carried with it grave consequences, a reality she seemed all too eager to ignore. As our conversation reached its inevitable impasse, I made a decisive choice, rising from my seat and exiting the house, laptop in hand. In the anonymity of a nearby Wi-Fi spot, I monitored their digital correspondence, a silent observer to the unraveling of our once unbreakable bond. Fury and frustration emanated from her words, a testament to the resolve that had taken root within her. Their plans, laid bare in the digital ether, revealed a path fraught with deceit and betrayal. With a sense of grim determination, I resolved to meet their clandestine rendezvous head-on, seizing control of the narrative with each calculated move. Their romantic tryst, meticulously planned down to the smallest detail, served as a stark reminder of the depths to which our relationship had plummeted. Yet, even amidst the chaos, a glimmer of defiance flickered within me, a refusal to surrender to the whims of fate, no matter how dire the circumstances. As I kept a vigilant eye on their correspondences, it became increasingly apparent that my initial refusal had done little to dissuade them from their plans. With a sense of grim resignation, I watched as they delved deeper into the intricate details of their impending rendezvous. Check-in time was set for 3 o'clock, prompting plans for an early departure, with Frank slated to pick her up at 1 o'clock to accommodate the 2-hour drive. The realization that he would be picking her up from our very doorstep caught me off guard, prompting a flurry of thoughts as I contemplated my next move. Throughout this tumultuous period, I maintained a steadfast resolve, continuing to ignore her every advance. However, as Wednesday dawned, a day I deemed the day of reckoning for her, I resolved to offer her one final chance at redemption. Inviting her to join me at the table, I braced myself for the confrontation that was sure to follow. Her demeanor, though visibly strained, betrayed a sense of defiance as she confirmed her intention to proceed with her plans. She spoke of her upcoming trip with Frank, a glimmer of hope evident in her voice as she expressed a desire for reconciliation. Yet, as I cautioned her against jeopardizing our marriage for the fleeting promise of another, it became clear that my words fell on deaf ears. With a heavy heart, I delivered my ultimatum, signaling the finality of her decision. As I rose from the table, the weight of resignation settling upon my shoulders, I left the room, the door closing with a finality that echoed the demise of our once unbreakable bond. Thursday morning brought with it a renewed sense of purpose, as I set out to finalize my divorce plans. Securing the necessary time off from work, I embarked on the journey to Kansas City, where their tryst awaited. Checking into their room, I meticulously set up the surveillance devices, ensuring that every moment would be captured for posterity. With each click of the camera and every beep of the recorder, I edged closer to the closure I so desperately sought. As I meticulously verified the functionality of all the cameras on my laptop, ensuring they were aimed correctly, a sense of grim satisfaction settled over me. Each click of the mouse brought me closer to the closure I so desperately sought. With bated breath, I waited for them to power off, then moved around to confirm they would activate as intended. Every detail had been meticulously planned, every contingency considered. Returning home, a palpable sense of finality hung in the air as I contemplated the end of my marriage. Yet, there was one last errand to run, a final act of defiance against the betrayal that had torn us asunder. Stopping at a gun store, I procured a small can of pepper spray, a potent symbol of my determination to disrupt their illicit rendezvous. Upon my return, Linda awaited me in the kitchen, her expectant gaze met with stoic silence as I brushed past her, the weight of resentment heavy upon my shoulders. Slamming the door of my room shut once more, I sought refuge in the solitude of my solitude, refusing to entertain her attempts at reconciliation. That night, sleep eluded me, my mind awash with thoughts of retribution and closure. Yet, amidst the turmoil, a sense of grim determination settled over me. The pieces were in place, the stage set for the final act of our tragic drama. Friday morning dawned, heralding the beginning of the end. With steely resolve, I rose from my bed, the weight of impending finality settling over me like a shroud. A visit to the lawyer's office brought with it a sense of grim satisfaction as I signed the divorce papers, each stroke of the pen a potent symbol of my determination to sever the ties that bound us. With the papers signed and the wheels of justice set in motion, I turned my attention to the final pieces of the puzzle. Closing our joint accounts and canceling our shared credit cards brought with it a sense of catharsis, each action a defiant repudiation of the life we had once shared. Returning home, I prepared to bid farewell to the woman who had once been my wife. As the clock struck 12:30, I knew she would be preparing for her tryst with her newfound paramour. Ascending the stairs, I entered her room, finding her clad in the lingerie I had once gifted her, a bitter reminder of the love we had once shared. Despite her attempts to conceal herself, I refused to be swayed by her feigned modesty. With a sense of grim determination, I confronted her, the weight of my disappointment heavy upon my shoulders. Yet, even amidst the ruins of our shattered union, a sense of grim satisfaction settled over me as I prepared to confront the woman who had once been my wife. As I stood before Linda, her apology hung heavy in the air, a feeble attempt to justify her actions. Yet, despite her words, a sense of bitterness lingered within me, a bitter reminder of the love we had once shared, now fractured beyond repair. With a heavy heart, I addressed her, acknowledging her desire to feel attractive but lamenting the fact that she seemed more concerned with the opinions of others than with preserving the sanctity of our marriage. With a heavy heart, I approached her, gently removing the rings from her left hand, a tangible symbol of the vows we had once exchanged. I expressed my disappointment, emphasizing the significance these rings held for me and lamenting the fact that they seemed to hold less meaning for her. With a heavy heart, I slipped both rings into my pocket, her surprise palpable but her acquiescence telling. "I won't be here when he arrives," I declared, a steely resolve underlying my words. "But I won't allow him to set foot in my house. Do you understand?" Her affirmation was met with a sense of grim satisfaction as I reiterated the consequences she would face if she dared to defy me. "Why are you acting like this?" she protested, her voice tinged with disbelief. "Because the love of my life just shattered that love," I replied, my voice heavy with resignation. "I hope this weekend is worth the consequences. Goodbye, Linda." With that, I turned and walked away, the weight of my decision settling heavily upon my shoulders. Her protests fell upon deaf ears as I made my way down the street, a sense of finality settling over me like a shroud. As I parked down the street, a sense of grim determination settled over me. With a steely gaze, I watched as his car pulled up, my resolve unyielding despite the risks I faced. As they embraced and shared a passionate kiss, I felt a surge of anger and betrayal wash over me, a bitter reminder of the love we had once shared, now tarnished beyond repair. Returning home, a sense of emptiness enveloped me as I changed the locks and reset the garage door code, a final act of defiance against the betrayal that had torn us asunder. With a heavy heart, I packed my belongings, each item a painful reminder of the life we had once shared, a life now shattered beyond repair. With a heavy heart and a sense of resignation, I grabbed the suitcase and embarked on my journey to KC, the weight of betrayal heavy upon my shoulders. Upon checking in, I wasted no time in setting up my laptop, the camera aimed at the foot of the bed, poised to capture every damning moment. As the footage began to roll, a sense of bitter amusement washed over me as I watched Linda and Frank's intimate encounter unfold. It was evident from the outset that Frank's prowess left much to be desired, his shortcomings laid bare for all to see. A moment of cruel irony struck as he emerged from the bathroom, completely devoid of clothes, revealing a size that left much to be desired. A mirthless laugh escaped my lips as I watched Linda's attempt to make the best of a disappointing situation. Her frustration was palpable, her attempts to mask her disappointment falling short as Frank's feeble attempts at lovemaking left much to be desired. With each underwhelming session, my amusement grew, tempered only by the bitter sting of betrayal that lingered within me. Yet, amidst the chaos, a sense of grim satisfaction settled over me, a cruel reminder of the consequences of her actions. Leaving the recording to capture every damning moment, I ventured out for dinner and a few drinks, the weight of my decision weighing heavy upon me. Yet, amidst the pain of loss, a sense of liberation stirred within me, the promise of newfound freedom beckoning me forward. Returning to the room, I found Frank fast asleep and Linda visibly frustrated, a testament to the folly of her choices. With a sense of grim satisfaction, I retired to bed, my mind abuzz with plans for the days ahead. As morning dawned, a sense of renewed purpose settled over me, the promise of retribution guiding my every move. After a leisurely breakfast and a quick stop for snacks, I placed a call to a local florist, ordering a bouquet for Linda, a cruel reminder of the love we had once shared, now tarnished by her betrayal. With the stage set for my final act of defiance, I awaited the delivery with bated breath, knowing that the consequences of her actions would soon come crashing down upon her. With a contented smile, I drifted off to sleep, the weight of anguish lifted from my shoulders as I embraced the promise of a future untethered by the chains of betrayal. The timing couldn't have been more perfect as they left the room briefly, only to return and resume their romantic interlude, oblivious to the impending interruption. As they began to disrobe once more, a knock at the door heralded the arrival of the florist, delivering the bouquet I had ordered for Linda, a cruel reminder of the love we had once shared, now tarnished by her betrayal. Observing the tumultuous emotions playing across Linda's face from contemplation to anger, I couldn't help but feel a sense of grim satisfaction. Answering my cell phone, I engaged in a brief conversation with her, masking my fury beneath a veneer of calm indifference. Yet, beneath the surface, a storm raged, fueled by the betrayal that had torn us asunder. Her frantic attempts to reach me, met with silence on my end, only served to heighten her frustration. Turning to Frankie for reassurance, she found little solace in his assurances, the weight of my condemnation hanging heavy in the air. As they attempted to resume their intimacy, I seized upon the opportunity to further disrupt their tryst, ordering a pizza delivery and a sandwich, a petty act of defiance that brought me a twisted sense of satisfaction. Their frustration mounting, they begrudgingly indulged in their unexpected meals, their plans for romance thwarted by my relentless interference. Amidst the chaos, a sense of grim satisfaction settled over me, the knowledge that my actions had disrupted their carefully laid plans providing a fleeting sense of vindication. Yet, beneath the surface, a sense of bitterness lingered, a bitter reminder of the love we had once shared, now fractured beyond repair. As they left to regroup and prepare for their evening rendezvous, I couldn't help but laugh, tears of bitter amusement streaming down my face. For in that moment, I knew that no matter the outcome, I had asserted my dominance over the situation, a small victory in the face of overwhelming betrayal. As Linda emerged from the shower, her discomfort evident in the bright redness of her skin, I couldn't help but feel a twinge of satisfaction. My little surprise had worked like a charm, leaving her in agony and effectively putting an end to any hopes of intimacy with Frankie. As she lay groaning on the bed, I busied myself with organizing the evidence of her betrayal, each video meticulously catalogued and prepared for my lawyer's scrutiny. As night fell, a sense of grim satisfaction settled over me, the knowledge that I had successfully disrupted their illicit affair providing a fleeting sense of vindication. Yet, beneath the surface, a bitter sense of resentment lingered, a bitter reminder of the love we had once shared, now tarnished by her betrayal. Sunday morning dawned, bringing with it the promise of resolution. With a heavy heart, I made my way back home, knowing that Linda would soon face the consequences of her actions. Yet, amidst the turmoil, a sense of grim determination settled over me, a determination to see this through to the bitter end. As Linda returned home later that day, her demeanor betrayed by the absence of Frankie by her side, I couldn't help but feel a surge of bitter satisfaction. Sitting on the couch, engrossed in a football game, I barely acknowledged her arrival, my indifference a stark contrast to her expectations. Her attempt at reconciliation met with sarcasm and disdain. I made it clear that the damage had been done, our once happy marriage irreparably shattered by her betrayal. Yet, amidst the bitterness, a glimmer of hope stirred within me, a hope that perhaps, one day, I could find it in my heart to forgive her. But for now, the wounds were too fresh, the pain too raw to even consider such a possibility. Linda's feeble protests fell on deaf ears as I stood firm, my heart heavy with the weight of betrayal. Her attempts at reconciliation fell flat against the backdrop of her infidelity, each word she spoke serving only to reinforce my doubts about the sincerity of her promises. Her suggestion of making love that night was met with a cold response, my disdain evident as I questioned her about her encounters with Frankie. The realization that she had taken such risks without considering the consequences left me reeling, my trust in her shattered beyond repair. As she argued back, defending her actions with a venomous retort, I felt a surge of anger rise within me. How could she justify her betrayal so callously, as if her actions held no consequence? With a heavy heart, I made my way to a nearby bar and grill, seeking solace in the anonymity of the crowd. As I dined alone, the weight of her betrayal hung heavy upon me, each bite a bitter reminder of the love we had once shared, now tarnished by her deceit. Returning home, I found her in our bed, a painful reminder of the life we had built together now tainted by her infidelity. With a stern glance, I ordered her to leave, the words dripping with contempt as I confronted her about her betrayal. The tears that welled in her eyes did little to sway me, my resolve unyielding in the face of her remorse. As she left the room, her sobs echoing down the hallway, I couldn't help but feel a sense of bitter satisfaction, a small victory in the face of overwhelming betrayal. The next morning dawned with a heavy silence, each moment weighed down by the weight of our fractured relationship. As she left for work, her declaration of love fell on deaf ears, my heart hardened by the pain of her betrayal. With a heavy heart, I began packing her belongings, each item a painful reminder of the life we had once shared now irrevocably shattered. Yet, amidst the turmoil, a sense of grim determination settled over me, a determination to move forward, no matter the cost. Reaching out to Frankie's wife, I offered her the evidence of his infidelity, a small gesture in the face of overwhelming betrayal. Yet, amidst the chaos, a glimmer of hope stirred within me, a hope that perhaps, one day, I could find it in my heart to forgive. But for now, the wounds were too fresh, the pain too raw to even consider such a possibility. In a state of eager anticipation, I found myself at Linda's door, only to be utterly taken aback by her stunning appearance. Stammering, I offered a genuine apology, attributing my initial shock to her undeniable beauty. We swiftly delved into the matter at hand, and as I explained the events of the weekend, Linda's fury became palpable. Together, we made the decision for her to join me in visiting the lawyer's office, where we hoped to secure legal representation for her case. To our relief, the lawyer agreed to take her case and even extended a generous discount. While Linda busied herself with the necessary paperwork, I engaged in a discussion with the attorney, seeking guidance on the best course of action regarding serving Frankie to ensure Linda's protection. Reassured by the lawyer's advice, we took a break for lunch as the divorce papers were being finalized. Once Linda had signed them, I dropped her off at home before returning to await her call. Later that day, my phone rang, and Linda's distress was evident as she described receiving divorce papers and learning of Frank's impending legal troubles. In response, I maintained a calm demeanor, reminding her of my earlier warnings regarding the consequences of her actions. Although she expressed disbelief at the turn of events, I stood firm, emphasizing her role in the dissolution of our marriage. Despite the lingering feelings I harbored for her, I made it clear that I could not continue living with someone who lacked respect for me. When she inquired about my reference to little Frankie, I revealed the existence of video recordings capturing the events of the weekend, prompting her to understand the reasoning behind the nickname. The first time I laid eyes on his underwhelming package, it was so laughable that I couldn't hold back the tears of laughter. I found myself questioning whether it was even possible to derive any pleasure from it. It was evident that you weren't experiencing the same level of enjoyment as you do when we're intimate together. Your response was a denial, claiming that what you shared with him was true lovemaking, and that you might miss it. Offering a different perspective, I suggested that with the newfound freedom, you could explore relationships with anyone you desired, perhaps having a new partner every night. However, you shook your head in disagreement, expressing your desire for me and me alone. Feeling the weight of my anger, I proposed that we go inside and have a seat, acknowledging the harshness of my words and clarifying that I had no intention of causing physical harm to anyone. But I made it clear that I believed little Frankie deserved consequences for destroying our once happy marriage. I even mentioned that his wife had agreed to let him proceed with the divorce, emphasizing the severity of the situation. Reflecting on our past discussions, you expressed skepticism about my reactions had you been honest about your intentions earlier. I argued that he knew his wife would never agree to such an arrangement, emphasizing that my actions were fueled by the betrayal I felt. Despite your doubts, I remained resolute, conveying that your conversation with him would likely reveal that he, too, was facing repercussions. Your inquiry about whether I was truly kicking you out was met with a firm confirmation. I recounted the night you revealed your plans and how swiftly I made the decision to pursue a divorce. From procuring the necessary equipment to gathering evidence and initiating legal proceedings, the process had been set in motion. When pressed for the reason behind my actions, I simply stated, because you chose him over us. As Linda pleaded with me, questioning why I hadn't given her a warning about my intentions to divorce, she hinted at the possibility of forgiveness. In response, I acknowledged the love I once held for her, admitting that forgiveness might have been conceivable had she seized the opportunity presented the night before. However, I emphasized the irreparable damage to trust, asserting that I could never again place faith in her fidelity. The weight of my decision brought tears to her eyes, but I remained steadfast in my resolve. Continuing the discussion, I outlined the practicalities of our separation, ensuring she understood the division of assets and responsibilities. While she expressed regret and accepted fault, I maintained a pragmatic stance, delineating the terms of our divorce with clarity. Though my attempts at lightening the mood with a joke fell flat, I remained composed as I escorted her out of the house, symbolically returning her wedding ring, now rendered worthless, and bidding her farewell. Alone in my house, tears welled in my eyes, and for hours, I allowed myself to grieve the loss of what once was. Yet, as the emotional storm subsided, I confronted the crossroads ahead. Rejecting the paths of self-destructive escapism or succumbing to despair, I resolved to stand firm in my innocence and embrace the future without Linda. With a renewed sense of purpose, I reached out to her, arranging a dinner meeting, symbolizing my commitment to healing and moving forward. Despite the lingering memories of our past, I felt a glimmer of hope for the possibilities that lay ahead, whether in friendship with Linda or in the prospect of new beginnings with someone else. As I dialed her number once more, I embraced the uncertainty of the journey ahead, finding solace in the absence of the one who had caused my pain and the promise of brighter days to come.